Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are the newest games in the Pokemon franchise, taking place in the beautiful but very buggy region of Paldea. I was quite excited for the release of Gen 9, there was going to be some new exciting Pokemon, some new stuff to play with, but most importantly, Dunsparce. I like this little worm, so I decided, would it be possible to play through the entirety of Pokemon Violet using only a Dunsparce? I have tried to do this before in previous generations of Pokemon, namely in Pokemon X and in Pokemon Sword, but I always gave up for one reason or another. This time, however, is different. This time, I have a capture card. We start in this crappy house in the south of the region. I mean, seriously, you have to walk through like 15 minutes of unpaved hills just to reach the nearest shops. Why would anyone ever live here? Before we actually gain access to a Dunsparce, we have to trudge through a fair bit of story. I wanted to breed my own Dunsparce to avoid worrying about like disobedience, but you can't access any of the picnics until after you've completed a small section of story. So after meeting Director Clavel and Nemona, we beat a Lechonk, fall off a cliff, meet a Digimon, give it lunch, watch a cutscene, meet this weirdo with a squirrel, send it to the Shadow Realm, sprint to the Mesagoza gates, beat Nemona again, meet Penny, and beat some Team Stargrunts. Once this was all done, we were able to access picnics, meaning I could grab a Dunsparce, grab a Ditto, and breed it to try and get a new baby. The first one I got was perfect. A little male with Serene Grace, an ability that increases the chance of secondary effects occurring when using moves. I decided to name this Dunsparce Donut, and with no further use for the parent, I took it behind the woodshed. Now that I have my Dunsparce, I'll briefly go over the rules for the rest of this challenge. There are 3 main rules. No over-leveling, no held items in battle, and only use one Dunsparce in the battle. This would mean I'd have to actually use strategy and technique rather than just boosting my level as high as possible or spamming healing items. With that in mind though, I was still allowed to boost my stats, so I headed over to the Delibird Deliverers in Mesagoza and stole myself a Power Weight and a Power Belt to boost my HP and defense EVs. Then we ran out back onto Route 1 and bullied as many Scatterbug, Tarantula, and Azurils as I could find to boost my stats as high as possible. Eventually we had our HP and defense EVs at maximum, and it only took 3 hours. But in the meantime, I jumped over onto my copy of Scarlet and transferred all the Pokemon I could back onto my copy of Violet. I figured that even though I was only intending to use a Dunsparce, I may as well get the shiny charm and find some shinies as I played. This did have some unintended consequences though. This didn't even complete the dex, what a waste of time! With no more reason to loiter, we headed out of the west gate of Mesagoza, heading towards Katie's gym. On the way I battled several trainers to gain a little bit more experience, and had moderate success. I will have my revenge! I successfully took on a bug-type Terror Raid using just Rollout to sweep the entire thing, which gave me some confidence for the upcoming bug gym. So we headed into Cortondo and began the gym challenge. This challenge involves getting an olive through a slightly tough obstacle course. It's a shame we can't just like bonk it over the fences. Oh wait. With this chore done, we're now allowed to take on Katie herself. She opens with a Nimble, which we can easily use to set up Rollout. Rollout's damage increases with every successful hit, and we need to get a lot of consistent hits to deal damage. Unfortunately for us... yeah. The next few turns go a little bit better, actually getting a few successful hits with Rollout, and in no time we're one-shotting almost every member of our team, beating the Nimble, Tarantula, and finally the Terror Bug Teddiursa. Simple as that, we've beaten our first gym and we're well on the way to beating this challenge. The battle against Clorf goes much the same way. Dunsparce learns Mudslap early on in the game, and this is perfect for defeating the Clorf Titan. The accuracy drops from Mudslap prevent it from hitting us, and it deals super effective damage, taking it out in just a few hits. Then we repeat the fight, but this time with Arven here. Okay. The Clorf focuses on the Knackley for the majority of the fight, leaving us to easily sweep it down with Mudslap again. First Titan down. Back onto our gym challenge, we're over to Artisan and Brassius. Pretty ironic for an artist to live in a town called Artisan, but it clearly works because the residents here have plastered the town with the exact same flower sculpture. Although we have no super effective moves currently, I thought it would be worth just throwing myself at the fight. But first, Sunflora hide and seek. Run around the town looking for Sunflora and bring them all back to board now. This mission sucks. Now we're on to the actual fight with Brassius, a man who jumps off of windmills for fun. This guy could just fistfight me, but instead chooses to fight me with Pokemon. And his Petilil is absolutely perfect for defeating our strategy. It uses Sleep Powder to shut down our rollouts, and Mega Drain to heal itself up from the minimal damage we're already dealing. The less health we have, the stronger our flail becomes, which I use to take out both Petilil and Smoliv, but Sudowoodo easily tanks our damage and ends the fight. So we're going to need a more reliable source of damage, which luckily can be found in Artisan. Inside the maze is the TM for Poison Tail. With this move equipped, the fight becomes an easy breeze. Petilil and Smoliv can hardly resist the Poison Tail, and it only takes 2 to take out the Sudowoodo, even though it outspeeds us thanks to all its powerful Trailblazers. 2 gym badges down, 6 more to go. Bombardier is next up on our fight. My first try doesn't go great. Even though we now have Glare to paralyze the bird, it doesn't get paralyzed a single time and easily sweeps through us using Wing Attack. But our next try goes much more favorably, as we're able to outspeed the bird and take it out before taking critical damage. Unfortunately, we then have to go into the next fight against the bird, still on low health, but it aims at Arven's Pokemon for the entirety of the fight, leaving me free to whittle it down. After a cutscene with Arven, it's time to take on Team Star's Dark Crew. Hello. So this is me from the editing booth, I guess. It turns out, this character I've got on screen right now, his name is Giacomo. I did not know this while recording the entirety of this video, and I pronounced it wrong for the entirety of this video, and I can't be bothered to go back and redub the whole thing, so you're just gonna have to put up with it. Sorry, have fun, bye. I once again didn't have a plan, and this time I'd be punished for it. The first part of the Team Star fights is always easy, beat a bunch of Pokemon in the Let's Go mode. So I met up with Clive and Cassiopeia and headed into the battle. Giacomo's Pokemon sit at around level 21, so I made sure to use EXP Candy to get up to at least that level. With that, I went to the base, I took on and beat the Grunt, ignored the lack of shadows, and prepared to go inside. Which is when I learnt about this. Yep, you can't even enter the battle without at least 3 Pokemon in your party. Fortunately for me, I have the entire Pokédex ready to go. These weird Let's Go battles hardly even count as real battles, so for the sake of keeping up the challenge, I decided this doesn't really break the rules. I picked a level 1 Gothita and a level 3 Hoppip, as they would both faint before attacking anyway. Inside the bases we have 10 minutes to beat 30 Pokemon, and this is a more than generous time limit, so we got to work brutally assaulting all these teenagers' Pokemon. We're the good guys. After beating all 30, we're allowed to take on Giacomo and his Starmobile, while listening to some of the best music Pokemon has ever produced. First up is Pawniard, and out comes... you're alive again. Out comes Donut. At this moment I realised I'd made a mistake. All of my moves were not very effective, or did nothing. Thank you, Poison Tail. My best bet was to try and use Glare and Rollout again, but with the Fury Cutter that Pawniard had set up against Gothita, we were quickly beaten in only a couple of turns. This was the way this fight would go for the next 10 or so tries. Pawniard had Defiant, which means that using Mud Slap to lower its accuracy resulted in it increasing its attack, which means it would usually defeat me before its accuracy would be low enough that it couldn't hit me anymore. Fortunately, every attempt I made gave me a little bit more insight in how to beat the opponent. Every attempt I would try using a new strategy or a new move or a new item to help me get through the battle. I used the Pounce TM that I learned from Katie to give myself a neutrally effective move. I ran up to Medali to grab the leftovers from a little alcove in the town, passed through Lavincia and into the quarry area to grab the TM for Amnesia, got a Mirror Herb from the Cascaruffa Deli by Deliveries and a Camera Up to acquire Curse, and finally equipped the moves and the leftovers to increase my survivability. With this done, the battle became far easier. Curse raised my defense enough to resist the Pawniard's attacks, while Amnesia let me preemptively set up to resist the Starmobile's strong special attacks. Thanks to our incredible defense using Curse, Leftovers was healing us to almost full every turn. When the Starmobile came back out, its Snarl only did 4 damage thanks to all our special defense increases, and we were able to take it out in 4 hits of Poison Tail, finally beating the Dark Star leader. I will never get the 2 hours that it took to do these battles back, but here we are regardless. Confident with my new strategy and new moves, I was ready to head over to Lavincia's Iono. But I thought my new son could take a bit of a break, so we headed over to Porto Marinada's lighthouse and settled down to enjoy the sunset. So, Lavincia, town of water and bridges, and a bopping soundtrack. We're here to beat the electric-type gym leader Iono. Her team sits at around level 23, and with a team of 4, we are slightly outnumbered. Not only that, but her team also consists of Wattrel and Mismagius, both of whom are immune to any ground-type attacks. To best counter her team, I'd need a ground-type attack to deal with the 2 regular electric types, as well as a rock move to deal with Wattrel. As none of her Pokemon were able to be paralysed, I replaced Glare with Ancient Power, and head off to get the TM for Bulldoze to replace Pounce. I enter the gym building, having completely forgotten that I was supposed to level up beforehand. Fortunately for us, it doesn't matter, as we actually have to fight Nemona before we can fight Iono. She opens with a Rock Ruff, which is extremely convenient considering we just equipped Bulldoze. Due to its weak attacks, we have plenty of time to set up both Curse and Amnesia, although it does swap to using Double Team, meaning we do struggle to hit it once we start attacking. But once it's down, we sweep through the rest of our team extremely easily. Then we're able to start Iono's gym challenge. This is where we have to find Clive hiding around Levincia. This challenge is actually decently fun, although very easy. We also have to take on some gym trainers here, and without the ability to heal mid-fight, getting paralysed becomes a bit dangerous. I just had to hope this wouldn't be an impact on the rest of the fights, and it wasn't, and we're able to heal before we go and fight the gym for real. Re-equipping Rollout for this fight, I've re-entered the gym building and started the fight against Iono. She brings out her Watchful first, which opens with Spark. Knowing how many special attacks I was likely to encounter here, I set up the max number of Amnesias immediately before using Curse a few times to boost my attack. I then started using Rollout, almost beating the Watchful in one hit. Belly Bolt's able to paralyse our little jammy donut, but after another 2 rollouts it goes down as well. I was feeling extremely confident at this point, which was only improved when we hit level 24 and learned Drill Run, a stronger ground type move. Our 5th rollout beats the Luxio, leaving only Miss Magius, which terrestrializes to electric type. Although she has Charge Beam to buff her special attack, we're already at maximum special defense, so I was confident I wouldn't lose here, even after being confused. After a couple of failures from confusion, we get the last few hits we need and Miss Magius goes down. With that, we've beaten Iono and beaten the Levincia gym challenge. Afterwards, we receive a brief visit from Gita, which I definitely didn't listen to. I already know my next target though, Mela, the fire type user. Our current moveset would be perfect for cleaving through fire types too, so I head straight over to the Team Star fire base. We beat the ground outside, delete 30 fire type Pokemon inside the fences, and get to challenge Mela. Torkoal comes up first, which I use to set up my usual Curse Amnesia combo, until it uses Clear Smog to remove all my stat increases on the second turn. Oh no. Without any way to set up, I'm given no option but to just keep spamming Drill Run until Torkoal beats us. Attempt 2, I bring Mud Slap, and we're able to easily beat Torkoal just by lowering its accuracy. We then set up against the Starmobile, once again using Mud Slap to lower its accuracy as well. It swaps to using Swift, which does next to no damage, giving me the perfect time to set up curses, and then beat it down with Drill Run. After just 2 hits, the vehicle goes down, and we're now officially 1/4 of the way through the game. After these last couple of battles, I have the 3 main techniques down. Using Mud Slap to lower the opponent's accuracy before setting up, using stat-raising moves to reduce damage, and using Glare to stall the opponent long enough to give me time to set up. Thanks to the Move Reminder feature, we can easily swap between Glare, Mud Slap, and more other offensive options, with our 4th slot always open for a spammable super effective move. With that in mind, our next opponent is Orthworm, a pure Steel type. However, this big fella has Earth Eater as an ability, causing it to be healed by ground type moves. This means we can use neither Mud Slap nor Drill Run, so I had to resort to using a new move pool. With ground off the table, the best move available for Dunsparce right now is Flamethrower, so I grabbed the TM and headed into the quarry to find the bigger worm. We chase it and then start the battle. After one false start, we're able to fully set up Curse and be bulky enough to tank the worm's attacks. Then we started using Flamethrower, doing almost half of its HP per hit, beating the entire phase in just 2 hits. After chasing the worm down once again, it moves on to phase 2. We basically just repeat the last phase, paralysing it with Glare and using Flamethrower after just 1 curse. Just like Bombardier, the Orthworm doesn't attack me on this phase of the fight, focusing mostly on Arven, allowing us to get another easy victory. Next up is Kofu in Cascarafa. I'm realising how infrequently I actually say these town names aloud in my normal life. Cascarafa sounds like some sort of infection of my kneecaps. Kofu uses mostly water types, so I grab a Thunderbolt TM from the nearby Porto Marinada, start the mission to return Kofu's wallet, and meet him near the auction area. I first have to beat his apprentice, and I forgot to use the Thunderbolt TM, meaning I had to beat his water type team with only Flamethrower. Somehow, I scraped by with exactly 0 Flamethrower PP left, give Kofu his wallet, and win the auction for the Hoenn Seaweed. This mission is a joke, by the way. They give you 50,000 to pay for the auction, but the other bidders give up at 40,000, giving you 10,000 for free. I remember to equip the Thunderbolt TM, speak with Hassel and Rika, then begin our brawl with the Surging Chef. First up is Veluza, which can do decent damage with Aqua Cutter, but we paralyze it, spend a few turns setting up, and get extremely lucky with Paralysis RNG. It takes a few hits for us to beat Veluza and Wogtrio, but then out comes Crabominable. I predicted it was going to use a fighting type move, so I had preemptively set up Curse, and I was correct, as it comes out with Rock Smash, barely damaging my boy. Not wanting to risk taking excessive damage, I hit it with a Glare, then start whittling down with Thunderbolt. With all the curses we set up against Veluza, we effortlessly tank all the damage from both Rock Smash and Crab Hammer. 4 Thunderbolts later, we beat Crabominable and claim the Cascarafa gym badge. Although our next opponent is Atticus, the Poison-type Team Star leader, I chose to take a detour to unlock Montenevera, this place in the mountains. This area has the Hyper Training NPC, as well as a shop that sells mints. This would allow me to make improvements to Donut's mediocre stats. I wanted to buy a mint to reduce its speed in exchange for more special defense, as well as using bottle caps to raise my IVs. But when I got to the mint shop, it turns out I can't buy them until I progress the story more, so that was a complete waste of time. To defeat Atticus, I was originally going to use the Stored Power TM until I remembered he leads with a Skuntank, a dark type immune to stored power, so instead I re-equipped Drill Run. I then fast travelled to Levincia and headed up through the quarry, where I found something very special. This was, of course, our first shiny of the run. I I was very excited. I had hoped unlocking the shiny charm early might reward me, and it certainly paid off. But this is no time to break the rules, so I grabbed Hoppip and Gothita and headed into Tagtree Forest. Talk to Clive, fight a child, beat 30 Pokemon, Atticus. Skuntank comes out first, uses Toxic and Venoshock, and we get absolutely folded like a wobbly ironing board. Turns out, at the moment, Atticus is a complete brick wall. Toxic prevents me from stalling and setting up, especially when combined with a strong Venoshock that can defeat me in just 2 or 3 hits. I ended up spending a couple of hours on this fight. No matter what strategy I came up with, Skuntank seemed perfectly capable of destroying it. At first I tried using Yawn to put it to sleep, but even so, getting hit with a Toxic was a death sentence. After 3 more hours, and I lost count of how many attempts, I finally found a strategy that actually worked. By swapping Yawn to Rest, I could get rid of Toxic the moment I'd set up my Amnesias, allowing me to gradually build up my defenses to Venoshock. I even equipped a Chesto Berry, allowing me to wake up quickly to set up even further. This all gradually paid off. I'm able to easily get past Skuntank, and Muck can barely damage me with Sludge Wave. Rest allows me to reset my current health and remove Poison, giving me the time I need to set up Curse and Amnesia and maximizing both offense and defense. I'm able to beat Skuntank and Muck in just a few hits, dragging out Revavroom. This machine is Poison and Steel, making it extremely vulnerable to my ground-type attacks, and it goes down in just 1 hit. Finally, another Revavroom, this time the Starmobile. With all the stat increases, it doesn't stand a chance, and falls after a few more hits. And with that, the 3rd Team Star leader is defeated. I did originally plan this video where I go over every single Team Star member and how I lost to them, but the video was around 56 minutes long, so we're gonna skip that. Once we got Rest down, the fight was trivial, that's all that matters. Speaking of trivial, we're off to Medali next to deal with Larry. I replace Rest with Hyperdrill, then jump straight into the gym challenge where Nemona offers to battle, then runs away when I accept. The gym challenge in Medali involves speaking to specific citizens. However, I luckily remember the answer from playing through Scarlet, so we're able to quickly skip this section and start the fight against Larry. In preparation for the fight, I used some EXP candies to get all the way up to level 34, and... oh no the hell you are not! We start the fight properly using our Dunsparce. Kamala comes out first, and we set up Curse while it uses Yawn. I then spend approximately 5 turns asleep before waking up to continue buffing my stats, only for Kamala to use Yawn again. 7 million years later, we finish Kamala with a Hyperdrill. Larry sends out... oh dear. Look, I'm sorry, I promise you can evolve eventually, please just be patient. Anyway, we beat the Dunsparce with our single Hyperdrill, then fall asleep again. Last but not least, Staraptor. For the first time in this challenge, I'm able to Terastallize to gain maximum damage from Hyperdrill, and I therefore do. Staraptor hits us with a facade that barely leaves a mark on my crystalline form, while we... sleep. Wake up! I woke up the cat, whoops. Eventually, Donut stops slacking, easily beating Staraptor with just 1 Hyperdrill. It's really weird how easy the gyms are in comparison to the Team Star members, I mean... Oi! After dealing with Larry, we get ambushed by Nemona once again, although Geeta gets ahead and requests to watch our battle. This time, Nemona opens with a Lycanroc. Fortunately, we still have our ground-type Drill Run as a move, so after a quick stat boost, we go straight on the offensive. This was the first time in the challenge where I really felt like Donut was actually kinda strong, and I realized just how far we'd actually made it. Not long ago, we were struggling with a Pawniard, now we're out here fighting mid-game stuff without even needing to spam Curse and Amnesia for 12 turns. After beating Lycanroc, we learn Roost, replacing Drill Run. I defeat Gumi with 1 Hyperdrill, another turns the Pawmo into a thin smear on the cobbles, bringing out Quaquaval. She Terastallizes and uses Aqua Step, doing decent damage but not enough to stop our oncoming Hyperdrill from cleaving out half of Quaquaval's health. 1 more finishes the fight. Back onto the hit list, Rhyme. She uses Ghost types. I grab a Rockruff and the Mirror Herb to get Bite instead of Hyperdrill and head back to Montenevra. A little EXP and rare candies later gets Donut up to level 40, and we slip through the freezing town to reach the gym building. There's apparently a Rockruff inside this door. Alright, we're then told to go speak to MC Sledge and... oh, for crying out loud. I grab a Hoppip and try again, this time being arbitrarily allowed back into the fight. This involves 3 double battles against Ghost-type users. I have plenty of time to set up Amnesia while Hoppip uses Splash, as it instantly feints to Shuppet's Shadow Ball. Knowing that I'm going to have to take these fights on 2v1, I go back to just fully setting up Curse and Amnesia for 12 turns. Shuppet also uses Curse, taking off huge chunks of my health each turn, but I'm able to finish the fight with just a few bites. How's that for a rhyme? As it turns out, we get healed between each fight, meaning that the next couple of battles are a joke. I only need to set up 1 Amnesia and 1 Curse to finish off Haunter and Mischievous, before we're tasked to fight against Moist Critical himself. This is even easier because Drifblim explodes first turn, dealing basically no damage, so I can use a Curse to buff my attack further, and Sableye only takes a few hits to finish. But finish, we do indeed. With this done, we're up against Rhyme herself. I heal my team and launch myself back into the fight at breakneck speeds. There is a brief and really awkward rap battle, and then we're allowed to take on the real challenge. On brand for a ghost gym, I use Curse first turn, while Hoppip once again acts as fodder. With Donut now the sole target, we take the full brunt of 2 attacks, but soak up the damage reasonably well. A couple more Amnesias and Curses put us on track, and we start using Bite to whittle down the Mimikyu, interspersed with more Curses to mitigate as much damage as possible. Banette and Mimikyu can only spam Slash and Sucker Punch, freely letting me set up in preparation for the next 2 Pokemon. Pros of using a normal type here, all the strong ghost type moves are basically useless against my little wormy son. Finally, with a +4 in attack, we use Roost to heal back up again. Bite finishes Mimikyu and out comes Houndstone. The crowd cheers, boosting my attack, so I continue the onslaught. But at this point, Banette is using Icy Wind, which is doing negligible damage, so I ignore it and just focus on the Houndstone and Toxtricity. To add insult to injury, Toxtricity uses Discharge as its final move, damaging the Banette as it falls. After that, a single Bite can finish off the Banette. Somehow, despite everything, the 2v1 double battle was the easiest battle so far. Now we've had our fair share of gyms and star leaders, we're back to the Titans with Iron Treads, in the desert. This big metal ball is weak to ground, so I just add Drill Run back to my moves. Now that we've beaten 6 gyms, we can go and buy bottle caps from Delibird Presents, as well as mints from the Chansey supply at 20,000 each. As I basically haven't spent any money yet, I splash out on a mint as well as all the bottle caps I can afford. When Donut reaches level 50, I'll be able to boost up his base stats to maximum. For now though, I head to the desert and engage the Steel Elephant. As I expected, Curse into Drill Run did a decent smack of damage. After only 2 hits, it runs off together at Turbo Mystica, and with Scovillain's help on the second stage, it again faints in just 2 hits. This was almost as fast as fighting Katie. With that, we gain the ability to glide, so we can now access the Casseroya Lake Titan when the time comes. But that's getting ahead of us. First, we have to fight Tulip and Alfonada. This involves climbing up a huge rocky outcropping over the sea. Tulip's team is around level 45, and as I was running out of EXP candy, I decided to do my first bit of grinding since we did all that EV training at the start of the challenge. And by that I mean we beat up some of the trainers on the ramp to get up to the right level. At level 44, I learned Coil, a far improved version of Curse that buffs your accuracy instead of reducing your speed. After that, it's a short trip up the cliffside to Alfonada. Oh, Alfonada, all for nothing, I just got that. Apparently, we have to beat Nemona before doing this gym, but you already know how this goes. Coil and Amnesia against the Lycanroc, then keep using Drill Run until everything stops moving. Coil was actually extremely useful here, because the Lycanroc kept using Sand Attack, which, you know, doesn't matter if I'm raising my accuracy. And the rest of her team gets beaten by +6 Drill Runs, even her far stronger Quaquaval, as it appears to be entirely allergic to using fighting type moves. Alfonada's gym challenge is lame. It's a Simon Says minigame with more stages than frames. Although it does have Raphael. I don't know why, but I like him. I am never doing this again. To deal with Tulip's Psychic-type team, we re-equip Bite using the Mirror Herb again. Farafaraig doesn't do enough damage with Zen Headbutt to be a threat, giving us adequate time to buff ourselves up to the moon. 2 bites takes down the Giraffe, 3 finishes Gardevoir, Espathra hits hard with a Psychic but falls after just 1 bite, and finally Florges arrives to gently lower my special attack before popping like a balloon. With that, we only have 1 gym leader left, Glaciado Mountain's Grusha. After meeting this random toddler, who is for some reason part of the strongest group of trainers in Paldea, we travel to Levincia and head to a tower nearby to grab the Rock Slide TM. We could use Flamethrower again, but Rock Slide is a physical move and therefore our coils will actually boost its damage. Back up the mountain, we head into the gym building. The challenge here is a ski slope, which we complete with more than half the time left. Was this even really a challenge? Felt more like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Grusha's fight goes pretty much the same as the last few. Even using Blizzard and getting a lucky freeze, Frostmoth can't deal enough damage to stop us from setting up, so we just use Amnesia and Coil until our stats are higher than the mountain. One Rock Slide beats the depressingly weak Moth, Beartic barely leaves a mark, Titan does less damage than my Hay Fever, and Altaria's Hurricane gets drowned in a stream of rocks. Grusha falls without even putting us at risk once, so much for the strongest gym leader. Now we've got all 8 badges, we can challenge the Elite Four whenever we wish. But first, we have to deal with Team Star and the last Titan. Ortega is first, so we bring Poison Tail back from the dead to eliminate his fairy types. We have to fight his piano teacher for some contrived reason. Anyway, he hits hard, but we set up harder. I guess that must have been the key. I grab the 2 backup singers and we liquefy all the 30 fairy types. Considering how hard the last 3-star members were, I went into this fight fully expecting to get walled, and the damage that Azumarill could do certainly reinforced that fear. But while I was setting up coils, it was spamming Charm, a move that reduces my attack. Although the massive boost to our defense allowed us to soak up the play rough hits, but when I hit with Poison Tail in return...
Ooh, that's kind of small.
Almost all of Ortega's team have some way of reducing my stats, meaning I basically can't bring my attack stat back up until I get to the Starmobile. At this point, this battle has become a massive battle of attrition. Ortega's team can't conceivably do enough damage to defeat us, but equally we can't do enough damage to defeat them without getting lucky with poison. So I had to just wait for the enemy Pokemon to slowly faint from poison damage. This battle was the single longest battle of the entire run. It took 28 minutes. When the Starmobile comes out last, I remember that it was immune to poison, but luckily it has no moves that can lower our stats, so I once again go back to spamming Coil, bringing my stats all the way back up to full so I could actually beat it with Poison Tail. On the bright side, this was the only Team Star member we'd beaten on the first try. So we're now off to Paldea's biggest lake to beat the false Dragon Titan. On the way, I passed through a small outbreak of Dracloak, and I found this! Ooh. 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 It's a shiny. Our second shiny of the run. Where'd it go? Where is it? Where did it go? What? What? Oh, no, there it is. I was definitely pumped for this one. On my main save file, I'm building a shiny dragon type team just for the fun of it, and this little lady can go alongside them. Although the onlooking crowd of Dracloak was slightly off-putting. Welcome to the laggiest part of the entire run, down in Casseroya Lake. I went and found the big sushi on one of the islands, and a bigger sushi jumps up to eat it, which I totally didn't forget was a feature, and I didn't jump when it happened, I swear. Dondozo's water pulses hit hard, but we have amnesias to stop that, until it pulls out Aqua Tail, which chunks me equally as hard. But this was no matter for the mighty power of Donut, who soaked up the damage quite effortlessly, and responded with Poison Tail, because I forgot to swap moves again. But this was more than enough to easily beat the catfish, which then just swam off. I was gonna head after it, but then I found this. Weirdness aside, we went off to heal and ran back to the lake to fight the fishy again. Once again, Arven was of great help, dealing the majority of damage while Donut was buffing himself, to the point where Greedent eventually failed to recoil from its own takedown. Not in vain though, as we were able to beat the Dondozo on the same turn. Then we get to fight Tatsugiri. Greedent almost immediately got cleaved in half, while I set up enough amnesias to get us through the fight. We get a poison on our first attack, and although I intended to set up Coil to increase my damage, Tatsugiri hits us with a taunt, meaning we get to enjoy spamming Poison Tail for the next few turns. Took a while, but we did eventually wear down the Tatsugiri and win the fight. After our final Herba Mystica sandwich with Arven, healing his puppy back to peak strength, we can leave and head to the final badge of the game, the last Team Star base. What, were you here to watch the entire emotional heart-wrenching story of Arven and his dog? Tough, I'm here to commit war crimes with a small yellow worm. After weaving through Tagtree Forest and the big mountains, we reach the final Team Star base. For this fight against the fighting type Pokemon, I go in with stored power equipped. Clive wishes us luck and we head in. We smash Carmen into the dust and grab 2 extra Pokemon to beat down the random Team Star members. At this level, these guys actually hit hard, but the vending machines everywhere let us heal up whenever we get low. I did bring the 2 shiny Pokemon I'd caught this time, as if I'd still been using Hoppip and Gothita, it would have taken far longer, and frankly this was taking long enough. Like most of the Team Star leaders, Eri took a lot of effort to beat. She opens with a Toxicroak, which does decent damage, but not enough to actually stop us from setting up Coil. However, on our first few attempts, she got critical hits early on in the fight, knocking us out before we even make any progress. Our third try, however, goes perfectly, with us fully setting up Coil and Amnesia without a crit. With all the stat boosts, her Toxicroak, Passimian, Annihilate, and Lucario fall to a single stored power each. The Starmobile comes out last, and with just 2 stored powers and next to no retaliation, we take the final badge of this run. Now all that's left is the Elite Four, Geeta, Clive, Penny, Nemona, and Turo. But unfortunately, this video is kind of dragging on longer than I was hoping it to, and we're already about halfway through the game, so I'm going to split the rest of this video up into a second part. Make sure to tune in if you want to see what happens then, and I'll catch you later.